I've been learning foreign languages for many years, and as such, I've obviously made a few mistakes when dealing with new tongues. So today I'm going to talk about 3 of the biggest regrets I have related to learning foreign languages. One of those mistakes was not devoting enough time to finding adequate resources. So in my case, the materials I use when learning a foreign tongue are either the texts provided by the teacher or the podcasts that I can find online. So the problem I would encounter in this regard was that I would become over-reliant on the first materials I'd come across. This would happen a lot with podcasts, so whenever I found one that I deemed good enough, I would just stick to that one. So given that podcasts have so many episodes and that they upload new material on a regular basis, I could spend weeks listening to the same podcast and still not even be able to finish 1/10 of the material that they had uploaded. The first reason as to why this lack of variability is a problem is that you do not have the chance to get familiar with other accents, topics, voices, and pieces of vocabulary. So for example, if you just listen to a podcast about philosophy created by someone who has a rather neutral accent, then you'll have some problems understanding a podcast about history created by someone who comes from another region of that country. Another problem you'll encounter if you just have one source of comprehensible input comes when your level improves. So when you get better at the language, what you should do is to try to find new materials, because by definition, the ones that you were using up to that point have become sort of too easy now. What was a bit challenging a few months ago, that podcast at around B1 level where you could just understand around 80 to 90% of the content, has now become by definition not that challenging anymore. But given that I had made it a habit to listen to that one podcast I liked so much, I would keep listening to it, even though now listening to that material was not useful anymore because my level had just improved a little bit. I should have taken the time to look for more difficult materials, but I didn't. So what I try to do now is to have between 2 and 3 podcasts on the pipeline and to ask myself the question more often of whether the materials I'm listening to are right at the sweet spot of difficulty. So my second piece of mistake was not taking enough time to review the materials I had used. So as I've said on this channel in several occasions, repetition is key in order to learn a language. And this not only applies to flashcards, but also to texts and pieces of audio you have already gone through. But what would happen to me quite often is that I would keep seeking novelty and wouldn't leave time aside to review the materials I had already gone through. The reason is that learning something new is always exciting, whereas repeating something is usually not that interesting. But I believe we should fight this dopaminergic desire for novelty we have and repeat some podcast episodes often, because that will help us retain some of the pieces of vocabulary contained in it way better. So the way I solve this is by using the weekends to review some of the episodes that I've listened to during the week. That is, I might just open the YouTube playlist of a language I want to listen to and pick a video I found very interesting. So I believe we should be aware of both our tendency to look for novelty as well as of the importance of repetition, and thus that we should re-listen and reread to some of the materials we have already gone through. If properly combined with other activities, this habit will help us learn vocabulary quicker. So my third regret is moving to a new country without knowing a single word of the language that is spoken there. So I've moved to a German-speaking country in 2 occasions. The first one was when I moved to Austria a few years ago, and the other one was when I moved to Germany a few years after moving to Austria. When I moved to Austria, I didn't know a single word in German, and I only reached an A2 level more or less at the very end of my stay. That is, during the 6 months I spent there, I barely had the chance to pick up words on the go, that is, while listening to conversations, because the level at which people were speaking was way above the level I could understand. So an experience I could have used to improve my level of German substantially didn't end up being like that, because my level in that language was too low. What happened in Austria is completely different to what happened when I moved to Germany, because when I got here I had sort of a B1 level more or less. That is, I was already able to have some sort of conversations, although I would make mistakes every now and then. And I was able to understand, let's say, 60%, 50% when people spoke to me. This gave me the opportunity to start picking up words on the go and to practice speaking. So after 3 months, my level had improved substantially. So with this, I learned a lesson. Whenever I move to a foreign country again, where I don't happen to speak the language that's spoken there, I would make a big effort to learn at least the basics before getting there. So that was it for today. If you enjoyed this video, then check out this one here where I talk about 3 other mistakes I've made when learning foreign languages, and subscribe, maybe over here.